Welcome back to the Fatboy Show on your number one station, RX Radio. Today is a really, really amazing day. We've been graced by some of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. And of course, I'm referring to Gladys Shotunjire, who's a charity campaign manager and a contestant manager at Miss Uganda UK. And also today we have been joined by none other than the reigning queen herself, the reigning Miss Uganda UK, Miss Vanessa Tendo Naddamba. Welcome once again to the Fatboy Show.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, previously, while Gladys was with us, we were sort of discussing the pageant and what it was all about and what you're trying to accomplish with it and why you are here visiting Uganda. And you mentioned that you are here essentially to promote the message of highlighting soft skills as part of the education system. Your concern being that too many people might come out of the school system with formal qualifications, but not the soft skills that can then take them to the next level, which in the modern world, you need those skills to get to where you want to go. And among those skills, you mentioned the ability to be emotionally intelligent, to be able to, maybe you can help me out. I think you also mentioned the ability to communicate and to convey ideas in an effective way.
Mm-hmm.
I think without the ability to do that, a lot of young people are going to find themselves floundering in this job market.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that right?
100%. And I do not just speak on it just for the sake of it, but I've dealt with that myself, and as confident as I am, or anything like that, there have been times where I haven't utilized the opportunity that has come my way because I haven't been able to show that I'm capable.
Okay.
So and of course when you're not able to do that, the person who's looking to you to give you that opportunity, they're going to be like, well, we can look somewhere else, kind of thing.
So let's see if we can find out more about you and what you do and how you've harnessed those skills over the course of your life. So maybe in a nutshell, tell us, who is Vanessa Tendo Naddamba? Aside from being Miss Uganda UK, who's Vanessa?
Mm-hmm. Who is Vanessa? Vanessa is a woman, of course. She's a young lady, and a woman in the making. She is a project management student. She's a sister. She is a sports girl. She's also an entertainer sometimes. So.
You mentioned you sing and you dance.
I do sing.
What kind of songs?
Than dancing. What kind of songs? I like R&B songs. I love my Adele. I like my Beyonce when I want to feel empowered, I love pop. Little Mix. I was actually part of a Little Mix tribute band at some point.
Really?
Yeah. Back home. So yeah, pop is my go-to as well. Just anything that feels good.
And have you tried to seriously pursue that, like to get a record deal or get studio time, record a song?
Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, before I actually became serious in my educational journey, my personal educational journey, I did want to be a singer, and I used to go to a lot of competitions and stuff like that. Obviously,
did you ever go to any of those talent shows? Because I know in the UK there's so many of them. Yeah,
I've actually auditioned for the X Factor before.
Really?
Yes, and I was shortlisted at some point, and then obviously I don't know what happened. I don't know, maybe I just didn't cut it. I never got a call back, and I just never went back. But like I said previously, I did have that performance issue, which I have been able to work on as time has gone on. So I think after my studies, I would definitely pursue it.
So yes, you said you're studying project management, and where are you studying this?
I'm studying that in Manchester at the moment.
Okay.
Salford University is where I'm doing that, but I live in Liverpool actually, so I commute.
Is it? It's not too far?
No, it's 45 minutes on the train.
Yeah,
a day if I decide to walk.
And when do you graduate, or when do you hope to graduate?
I graduate this year. I submit my final piece of work in August, so I graduate in September.
Wow! And this is an undergraduate course. This is your first degree.
It's a master's.
It's a master's in project management.
Yes.
This is amazing. And so when you're done with that, it's interesting that your graduation seems to be coinciding with you sort of taking on this mantle of Miss Uganda UG. It just feels like your world is now all of a sudden opening up in front of you. So what do you hope to do with your life going forward?
Yeah, funnily enough, everything kind of intertwines together. So I did my undergrad in public health. I did public health and community well-being, and of course within that subject there's a lot of things. It's a very wide subject. You have social policy, you have you work with housing and stuff like that, home office and stuff like that. And I've always had a very strong, I don't want it to sound like a cliche, but just a very strong urge to give back, a very strong urge to help the unfortunate or something like that. And with me doing project management, I guess it was more for me to gain the tools of knowing how to go about that. Should I decide in the future to set up my own organization or something like that, you know? So I think everything kind of like aligns, because now I've been part of Miss Uganda. I've got to see kind of the behind the scenes, because me and Gladys are together for the first week, and I get to see how she coordinates everything and stuff like that. And should I want to do something similar after my studies?
You certainly have the technical skills for that. I mean, that's what you're studying for,
yes,
right?
100%.
I can easily see you sort of leveraging that to branch into a career in organizing. I don't know if it'll be events, but it could be certain social causes or forms of activism.
Definitely.
So I'm curious to see what your future is going to look like. And that's if you don't swing back into a career in music, as was initially your dream at some point.
It was. You know what? I feel like ever since I was a little girl, I was 9 years old, and I've always wanted to sing and stuff like that. But I feel like as I've grown, there's more things that I get pulled towards, but I still have inside of me, I'm like, no, I need to make that dream come true for that little girl. So I don't know. I might end up achieving it all, you know? I can't have it all at once. I know people say, yes, you can, but no, you can't. I've tried. You can have it all, but not at once.
Speaking of having it all, one challenge a lot of young ladies are facing today, even as many of them are excelling academically, doing very well in school, and proceeding to enjoy amazing careers in the corporate world, it seems to be that a lot of them are struggling to balance that with personal life issues, in particular relationship, marriage, family, being a mother, these sorts of things. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you feel you're too young to say anything about it, but I'm sure you've seen women struggling to attain that balance. Perhaps for you, marriage isn't currently on the table, and given your career trajectory, it may be a while before you even consider it. Or maybe you can tell us about that. What do you think about marriage?
Marriage, I value marriage.
So when are you getting married?
If I could get married right away, I would love to, you know, but I feel like
even now,
yeah, if I was in the position, if I had a strong, solid relationship and everything else financially and everything was in line, 100%, why not?
And so is that what's stopping you? You feel like you're still trying to get those pieces, you're still trying to put them together?
I feel that's it not exactly. I have a lot of things to achieve individually before I bring somebody else into the picture.
All right, so what if you met someone now who was just so amazing, and perhaps you have, maybe you can tell us, but I mean, you could easily stumble into a very wonderful relationship that you might feel has potential to lead to more. And so if that were to happen to you, would you take that chance?
Yeah, of course, but you have to think of it. When you're thinking of marriage, marriage isn't something you just jump in just for the sake of it. Like, oh, it sounds fun, you know? It takes time, you know? It takes time to understand that person. Are they for you? Are they not for you? And you need to make sure your goals actually align, you know? If you are on the same page, of course, you can do it all, you know? You can have your partner, you support each other, you still get to figure out whatever you're doing in your career and stuff like that, and it works, you know.
Would you marry a broke man?
No. I would not.
What if he was so loving and dedicated and loyal and devoted? He loved
tempting.
You to the ends of the earth.
It would be tempting, but you need to work. You have to.
Well, you're working. Yeah, you're working on a master's in project management. Who knows, you might become a big music star in future. You have a lot going for you.
No.
So maybe money may never be a concern for you, even if you did marry a broke man.
No, you know what? I do not even want to sound materialistic, because I'm not. I don't feel like money is everything, but I definitely feel like you need a balance. And me personally, in the person that I intend to marry, I would like to respect you in that position as my man, you know? And I'm a traditional person.
So is this the Muganda girl talking? in
a
you.
bit of both. It's the woman in me talking, it's the Uganda girl talking, it's everything. You have to. I feel like although we have modernized so much in terms of how we view relationships and how we approach certain things in life, traditional gender roles, they need to be maintained to a certain extent.
So you're not a feminist?
I'm not a feminist. I wouldn't say I'm not a radical feminist.
Okay, you're
I'm
moderate.
not a radical feminist, but I can definitely reason. I can definitely reason, you know. I mean, for certain families it works, you know. The wife is the breadwinner, you know, and then the husband takes a step back and deals with the children, and it works if he's doing it effectively.
So how about the fact that you seem to be a very opinionated lady in relationships and marriage? You know how it is. Men tend to prefer women that are submissive. And as a Muganda lady yourself, you might have seen it happening in your life growing up with your family and so forth. Is that a role you could see yourself embodying, or would you wish to have a man that can tolerate your more headstrong nature?
I'm headstrong, but I am submissive. I've been in relationships before. I would like to think that my partner will respect what I have to say about something, you know? I do not dismiss what he has to say. Generally, I like for him to take the lead. If I was in a relationship, I would love for my partner to take the lead, you know? I want you to take the lead, but in times that you can't, I would like for you to know that I can be your backbone to be able to do that, you know. And I feel like for every young woman, you can't just be told.
Could you just add that message onto the other, you know, soft skills message you're trying to preach here in Uganda? Because a lot of ladies here, a good number of them have bought onto the idea of essentially literally being men themselves. They really want to be powerful and strong and intimidating. And if they feel like men can't handle it, they blame us for it. They say we're too weak, that we're too insecure. You better have a backbone to handle a tough girl like me. So that's the vibe that's sort of popular here.
Yeah.
And, you know, for you to come, you know, from the UK and have a viewpoint that suggests that, you know what, maybe there's something to these roles. There's some balance to be found, and that might help to bring out the best out of both of you without sort of approaching the relationship in a strictly confrontational manner, which a lot of people are doing these days. So I feel like that's a huge challenge, and I invite you to have conversations about that with some of the ladies that you meet.
Definitely.
So that'll be interesting. Okay, so it's not in the cards for you. Are you dating anyone at the moment?
I was. We are still very good friends. He has certain qualities that I do value in a husband and stuff, but I think individually we have some growing to do and figuring out to do for ourselves. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's quite common for people living in the diaspora. When it comes time to look for a partner, they come back home. You know, so some of them are here on fishing expeditions. You know, they come here and then they return back to the UK with a wife. I don't know if ladies do that
Common
too.
in men. I don't know about ladies.
But you've seen it. A lot of guys.
I've seen it in men,
they
yes.
return back home to the UK with a Ugandan lady in
It's a lot
tow.
of African men that do that. I don't think it's just a Ugandan
You know,
thing.
maybe they feel like the ladies back home are easier to handle, or they feel more comfortable with them.
More traditional. Yeah, traditional. They say they use the word traditional. The more submissive, you would say.
Whereas I would think maybe why it's not so common with the ladies is I would guess that, say, European men are probably, can I use the word softer, or at least more progressive in their ideas about relationships, so that they're easier to deal with than compared to an African man who might be a bit too old-fashioned for her liking. What do you think?
You'd be surprised. I think it also depends on where the man or the boy has grown up. And what they've seen in their life. But yes, generally the African man is very traditional. I need to do this and you need to do that and stuff like that. And yes, for the women in the diaspora, because we've been exposed to more freedom, you know, be opinionated, you work and stuff like that. It's there's a lot of clashing going on. Whereas here back home, yes, we again, depending on where you've grown up from and stuff like that. We're more traditional, and we stick to the gender roles a little bit more. So yeah, that's probably why they come back.
Yeah. So do you feel more at home with an African man or white British man?
I've never dated a white British man. I'm not attracted to them. They're not my preference kind of thing. I've always been for my black people,
for the people,
always,
for the
always.
culture.
And you know what? And you know what? I think it has something to do with because I grew up here as well. That's all I've ever known. And then of course I went back to the UK and stuff, and they're beautiful. But just not for me. Not for me.
So, what do you think about, being a Ugandan that has lived in the UK since you were 9 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing that's like almost 20 years or thereabouts?
No, not 20 years. 12, 13 years. Or 14. Or was it 14?
How old are you, if I may ask?
I'm 23, sir.
Okay.
I'm 23. Yes.
Yeah.
Do I look old?
No.
Don't call me old. Rude.
They say that a woman is typically only confident telling you how old she is when she's younger than 25, which is why you did not hesitate to tell me you were 23.
You know what?
Because if you turn 26, you'd be saying, but why you're asking? Do you really need to know?
But if I don't look 26, it's still a compliment, no?
Wow. Young lady, but still very mature and
Yeah.
smart and intelligent nonetheless. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
So my point being, having grown up in the UK and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on race and the UK. Right now, there's so much talk about how, say, Meghan Markle has been heavily criticized just because she's black. Is that a debate that you concern yourself with in the UK? Is it a big thing for you?
You have to concern yourself with being not even just a woman of color, just a person of color when you're somewhere that is not home. You have to be aware. You don't have to consume yourself in it so much, but you definitely have to be aware. And it's not to be a negative thing, to be like, oh my God, you're in a different country, you should isolate yourself or something like that. But there's definitely certain experiences that you might not be able to overcome, kind of thing, if you're not aware. Now, this is not to say that, oh my God, every white person in different countries is like racist or they're absolutely horrible people, but there's definitely microaggressions. And when you mentioned racism, and I guess for some of them, it's not even a conscious thing. And I do not want to be on their side and be like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, because really and truly they do. There's been enough education about racism and its effects and stuff like that for people to now understand the repercussions of it. But there's prejudice, I feel when I look at the race issue, there's definitely victims on either side. Now, what I mean by that, of course, we have the obvious side, the blacks, where we have suffered microaggressions, we've suffered in careers, opportunities, just at home and just in general society. We're kind of like looked down upon, but there's also a victim on the white side in terms of like, I feel because of their history, their great history, the newer generation have been brainwashed into thinking we are the superior, right? We are the superior, and because of that, we're not to say entitled, but because they have that subconscious thinking, they act on it without even realizing.
You do mean like they feel like they have a greater claim to the country than, let's say, someone like yourself and other immigrants?
Not even in terms of, they might not personally feel it, but because of their surroundings and because the systems work in their favor, they know that they're okay.
So what do you think about this counterpoint? Why shouldn't the system work in their favor? Because you see, for you, you have Uganda. Like, regardless of whatever it is you might go through there, you've got Uganda. And I think this is why especially African immigrants tend not to be as easily triggered by some of those things, the way sort of the the blacks that have been there for much longer have. I mean, America is a totally different story.
100%, yeah.
But if you are a recent immigrant and you face some inconvenience or other, you're like, yeah, who cares? I'm here to make my money. I send the money home and I'm building my retirement home back in my village. And once I'm done here, I'm packing my things and going back. So you don't feel your attachment to the UK may not be as strong as, say, someone who is more native to the area. Such as the white person there who might at the moment be feeling like he's losing his country. I read somewhere that London is now 70% non-white.
Yeah, London's very diverse.
So think of that transformation. It's like, imagine if if Kampala tomorrow became 70% non-Ugandan, let's say, or non. I think people might feel rattled, and understandably so, or maybe not rattled but nervous. So do you think there's something to that, or do you chalk that up strictly to ideas about supremacy or racism? What do you think?
I see where you're trying to go with it. It's kind of like you're trying to maintain what's yours, right? So they're like,
you shouldn't you?
They should.
I mean, you've seen Wakanda.
But it doesn't mean you have to inconvenience everybody else to make that a point, right? And like you said before, you're like, oh, some Africans do not feel as strongly about the racist issue or whatever because they have a different life elsewhere. But like I said before, you may not feel as strongly about it, but you still have to be aware. The money that you want to be getting to build this house back home, these issues are going to affect that, right? And it's going to affect in terms of the prejudice that the white person might have towards you. It's going to affect that in terms of the racism, the microaggressions that you face. If you're not aware of what's going on, you're not able to navigate your way through it, So it is indirectly going to affect the goal that you want to achieve anyway. So even though you're not, oh my God, racist, like, you're making my life horrible, you still have to be aware to say it's ignorance. You cannot be ignorant as a person of color, and
you need to be aware of what's going on.
You have to, and it's such a burden, because you're like, well, no, why can't I just be chilling, living my life the best way I can? But unfortunately, it's not the hands that we've been dealt, and you either get on with it, essentially get on with it, or you just go into depress yourself.
So is that going to impact how you see yourself in the UK, and also how long you see yourself being there? I mean, obviously you've got, this is your home, Uganda is your home, and so is the UK. You've lived there for many years. You could always move back.
I could.
Would you like to?
And that is an option. We have a family home here. Of course, I have majority of my family here. Of course, I want to retire here. I'm not going to lie to you. I know African people, I'm going to say African people in general, because it's an issue that even other African countries deal with. You see people in the UK and you're like, oh my God, they live in the dream and stuff like that. But honestly,
it's hard work.
It's hard work. And compared to the life here, it's so different. Like, we're literally living a good life. Trust me, we're living a great life. Our president
said in a recent interview that Uganda is the kind of country where even a fool can survive.
Honestly. And you know what? And I feel like the weather as well does not help in the countries over there. It just makes everything so horrible, But I think, honestly, for Africans that look to the people that live in the diaspora and they're like, oh my God, you live in the dream, it really is not. It's not what it seems. If anything, it's harder over there. Really and truly, it is.
Wow. Well, we were here to talk about, your role as a pageant queen. And it's interesting how our conversation sort of took a different tangent. And I'm glad it did, because it allowed me to sort of explore some of your thoughts on many of these social issues. And I think that just goes to show how much you bring to the table. And it seems like your talents are boundless. So I foresee a very bright future for you. And in addition to being an entertainer, singer, dancer, project manager, and now beauty pageant queen, you should also add radio personality or podcaster to that roster of skills you've got.
Okay, I've never tried podcasting, but these issues are important. It is important to even if you don't know much about them, just to speak about them, to be aware of them and stuff like that. But racism, it shouldn't affect how you live. I know you asked something about if it affects me personally before, something like that. Me personally, no, because I assimilated quite easily when I went.
Did you
to
see
the
that
UK.
Leona Lewis interview where she was recounting a terrible experience and she was very bitter about that? And of course, Leona Lewis, as you know, she's black, but she spoke of racial animosity that she experienced, and well, she seemed very emotional about it. And I was like, wait, is it that bad in the UK? Seems like it is, at least going by her.
Well, for some, like again, different experiences are different. Some racist experience are very direct. Some are not, and I think regardless of whether it's direct or not, it does impact you because when it's indirect, and especially if it's a microaggression or prejudice, you're like, well, sometimes you get offended. You're like, oh, don't you think I'm capable? You know, because that's where it's that's essentially the feelings that you get, right? When it's more direct, it's more physical, you know, like let's say it's been like a physical attack or something, then
that's
you know, exactly, it's the way. So you get impacted and affected regardless. I've dealt with both. Not physical attack, but like definitely in schools. It happens a lot in schools. And speaking of that actually, and hence why I've been working with a few charities back home. We're currently with a charity, 1,000 Hands of Love. It's a charity in Manchester at the moment. Now, because racism affects younger people more when they're in schools and they experience it more in schools, then these charities like the 1,000 Hands of Love, they actually tackle self-identity, right? So because you're experiencing that racism, and some children question their identity and why they're there, and you know, it's a different environment altogether, especially if they've had a different life altogether, let's say like from Africa and then they've moved over there. They're like, well, why is this happening to me, kind of thing. I think charities like that bring a sense of belonging to them, kind of thing, and it helps in terms of being able to deal with those challenges, kind of thing.
Well, it looks like you've got your work cut out for you.
I do.
So much to do to change the world and to make it a better place.
Yeah.
Well, I do wish you the best in your endeavors. I do have one final question for you. Could you kindly say a few words in Luganda?
In Luganda?
For those who are doubting that you know how to speak Luganda.
They're not doubting. Do I look Ugandan enough for you?
So say something in Luganda for us, please.
Okay.
So that...
What should I say? Okay. Baramusiza basibone banyabo mwenaje muri abari UK, abari Saudi Arabia, abari wano Uganda, mwebale nnyo okumpa obudde okumpuliriza leero, ate mbagaliza omwezi omulungi oba omwaka omulungi.
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much, Vanessa Tendo Naddamba. It's been a pleasure speaking to you on the Fatboy Show today. And hey, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Uganda and the other people you interact with. I'm sure they're going to be as delighted as I have been to host you today. And make sure, even when you travel back to the UK, you continue letting us know what you're doing. Of course, we'll share with the listeners the details about your websites and webpage. And in case you missed it, Gladys earlier told us, just look for Miss Uganda UK on all the social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all there. Well, thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
And hey, hope to see you soon.
You will do.